and this is what I tell kids because I'm an ambassador at my school, is when people try to be what they think they want, they already know what they want. They want you to be you. Mm-hmm. And so if you're giving them a fake version of yourself, you're not going to get into the school because they can tell. You know, if you get into callbacks, if you get past pre-screens, they already think you're talented and they just want to know who you are as a person and how you work in a room and everything.
Hello and welcome. My name's Carey, photographer and CEO of my own successful business. I'm also the host of She Networks, a great believer in lifting up women and loyal supporter to those that are around me. We're all surrounded by incredible women who are breaking the molds in this thing called life. Behind every successful online persona is a real person facing struggles, failures, and living real life stories that don't always have happy endings. We will have an honest conversation, dispel this myth of perfection, and find out what they consider a success, how they achieved it, and learn what they are still reaching for. You are not alone. Join the conversation.
So we've got a different kind of episode for you today. And I'll apologise in advance because I don't know how it's going to go. But it was interesting. I feel like I get asked a lot of questions about this subject because of my family. So that's why I'm bringing her on. Alex is joining us today. Hey. And if you know me, then you know Alex, because I talk about her all the time, and I talk about all my kids all the time. But yes, Alex Sheffield, welcome to She Networks.
Thank you so much. I'm a big fan.
So what did you just do the past week?
So the last 3 weeks have been absolutely crazy, but the past week I just graduated from Carnegie Mellon University. I got my bachelor's degree in drama, but I was majoring in musical theatre.
Yes, you have a degree.
I have a degree.
Who would know that?
I'm a bachelor lady.
From Carnegie Mellon.
I know. I mean,
Carnegie Mellon alum.
When I got accepted to Carnegie, everyone at my school didn't really know that the theatre program wasn't really based off of grades, and so many adults were like, oh my gosh, you go to Carnegie, you must be so smart, like that's such a big robotics school. And then, you know, I actually just go to the drama program where we pretend to be animals for 4 hours. But
I know, I think there's a little bit more
in it
than that. But okay, so let's talk about that. And the reason a lot of people ask me about getting into college and musical theatre and all of, you know, there's a lot of people that want to do it. There's a lot of kids that don't get to do it. They don't get to do it because parents don't consider it a real career choice. They don't get to do it because it's an expensive career choice and it's not guaranteed work at the end of it. And it looks like a fluffy degree. But actually, and we discovered it the hard way, it's not a fluffy degree and it's really hard to get into a good school. And being British and coming to America, the getting into college bit is very different here. One, financially it's very different, but two, the process. So I want to talk about the last few years in high school and how important musical theatre was there. You thought how important it was to how important it actually was. So let's kind of talk to people that right now have kids that are interested in musical theatre coming into high school. How important was your education there in the process of getting into college?
Well, I was really lucky to go to a school that had an international baccalaureate program. And I'm very glad that, I mean, throughout my life, I have been like, academics and like education has been very important, and I think me and my siblings are very like, we work very hard in our academics. We don't really slack off on it, and so I'm happy that I took advantage of the international baccalaureate program like I did. It's kind of like AP, but it's a 2-year program, and it's more focused on like essay writing rather than specific tests and stuff.
So it's not tick box answering questions. No, you had to think about it.
So, for example, I did IB psychology, and we would have to write pages and pages of like, we'd have a thesis, and we would memorize so many different studies, and it was more about writing them in analysis. And then even, you know, I really tried the last couple years of school to kind of make my high school, because my high school wasn't a performing arts school, and so I kind of wanted to build that for myself. So I did,
But how did your IB help you with musical theatre?
Well, I did IB dance,
right.
Which not only did I learn technique of dance, but it taught me how to choreograph, and you had to write about choreography. And since then, I've been able to choreograph a musical.
Yeah, and that's it. I was going to say, we can see how, now you've said that out loud, I can see how that's helped you, because you've choreographed, 3 dance performances?
I choreographed, at Carnegie, we have
you get asked to do it.
Yeah, at Carnegie, we have a performance called Dance Light, where I have choreographed multiple dances, and you also work with costume designers and lighting, which I did in IB, and then learning to write about it. And
then
then
another show you got asked to choreograph.
Yeah, I choreographed a full production of Rent, which was crazy with my schedule, but it's something now people ask me if to
and you know what, I never
pieces.
even really thought about you doing the dance, IB dance, and doing that, and where that's come into play. So that's really good for parents to hear that actually it's fundamentally important.
And same with acting. I didn't just act and learn how to act. Mostly in IB theatre, you learn how to put on a play and write about it and research different practitioners. And then I did IB English as well, which was really beneficial because we also did a lot of Shakespeare and Shakespeare analysis. And I think it was important for me to stay academically rigorous whilst pursuing my musical theatre and
by singing and dancing.
By singing and dancing, because Carnegie, I did get a scholarship from my academics, and there are a lot of schools that they're different, weighted of your audition and then also your academics. So Carnegie is more focused on the audition, but the academics still play a part. And then there's schools like NYU where it's half and half. So your audition is part of it, but if you don't have good enough grades or a high enough SAT score, you won't get into the school, because you have to get into the school itself to go to the different colleges.
And we can talk about that. What outside of I want to talk about what you were taught in school, and whether it was in terms of not the academics, but what other things did you not find out until later were fundamental in helping you in the process for college? So your singing lessons, and what you can tell me what. And then, so first of all, let's talk about that. So what was lacking? What did you not know you needed when it comes to, going on to the next stage, which is applying for a position in college?
Well, something that was a plus and a disadvantage of my high school career is that my high school training is
high
that
school career.
I had to learn how to be very independent and find out, get what I know I needed and not just wait for it to be handed to me, because I didn't go to a performing arts high school, and at the time it wasn't the best high school for performing arts. And when I was going into my college admissions, it's very different to just regularly, you apply regular schools, you just apply, and there's some supplemental,
you do your AP,
there's supplemental essays,
or ACT,
and then you might have to do an interview or something very specific to the school. But when you're applying to musical theatre and acting and also design and production, you have to do pre-screens and submit select materials, and then there's callbacks from there, and during Zoom there were callbacks to the callbacks. And so when reaching out to my teachers and my guidance counselors, they had no idea how to help me. And they also didn't want to help me on my materials, like my monologues and my songs, in my senior year, and at the end of my junior year, which was great. And working on different genres and working on my auditions. I mean, I worked on my audition materials since the summer of my senior year, before my senior year, because you have to do pre-screens. And even before then, I knew, okay, these are the songs that I sing. This is what I want to showcase in my songs and in my acting.
Okay, I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
What I want you to, there's a lot of information there. Okay, so you are in high school, and maybe in middle school, you definitely were. In middle school, you have an interesting stage and so you were what they call a triple threat. So you sang, you act, you dance. So all those three things. And there's a lot of people on that track. Some people are just into acting. You're in high school, and I really do encourage everyone to go outside of high school to get more education. High school has good people, some do. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years in your school, they definitely didn't, and they dropped the ball. But they have good people. Some schools have good people in drama. Some good people have good people in dance. Some people have good people in vocal coaching. But it's rare that you're going to find all three. And they are a generic school. They're not a performing arts school. So you really need to start finding groups and clubs outside of school in order to supplement you, because there are rules and there are things to know, and we didn't know them. We went to Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Centre that had a great education program, and it's probably the one place in Orlando.
I mean, there's a lot of...
And they take care of people too.
Orlando's got a lot of wonderful youth theatre. And, you know, we also, in high school, we have thespians, which is not just singing and dancing and acting. There's also directing and design and writing. And so for me, I was the president, and getting involved in thespians, especially in Florida, is very helpful for the different tracks. There's also Theatre West End. But yeah, I did the Dr. Phillips Centre. I did their performing vocal group.
And Theatre South too.
And Theatre South, yes, they're great. And the Garden Theatre.
So there's lots of different avenues. So, but I want you to try and bullet point this and encapsulate it, and we can dive into the different elements of it, because here's where it got so complicated. And I tell people about this because it really, I think it helped me, because I felt like I was applying for college because there's so much to do and it was so stressful. And you've got like a 1% chance of getting into all these good schools. But you do your ACT, you do your SAT, then you have a written academic application for college, and some of those colleges might have an interview. But then I want you to bullet point, if you can, all of the different the stages of applying for a musical theatre degree. Like getting into that college. What else, on top of doing your exam, doing your academic application, writing your essay, what other parts did you have to do?
Well, you have pre-screens, which
explain what pre-screens are.
Which are due. It depends. From some are due mid-September, and some you can submit all the way to December, and they're different for every school. So for Carnegie, mine was 2 songs, contrasting songs, and 2 monologues. But I had schools where there was a dance reel, and then there were wildcard videos. So there's various different categories that you have to film.
And the school would have picked in their application process what they want from you.
Yeah, so usually most schools want a classic, like a Shakespeare. I actually did some Greek monologues as well, and then a contemporary play. And then same for songs, like something more modern, and then something like more classical, but overall like a dramatic piece and like an up-tempo or
but you
comedy.
Knew... Oh, but you knew in the songs, you were like, oh, no, you can't sing that. No, you mustn't do that.
Songs that
but how do you know this information?
Well, there's some songs, and when you're in the theatre circle, and also online, they will tell you, don't sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, or don't sing like a Sondheim song that everyone knows, like Into the Woods, or a Hamilton song, unless you can absolutely kill it. So I have a friend who did Almost There from Princess and the Frog, which is like a Disney princess song that everyone seems to know, and she absolutely killed it, and she still uses it. So if you can do it and you make it your own and not copy anyone else, great. But try and explore different musicals. You know, one of the songs that I did is from a musical called A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and I liked the song, but it was too low for me, so I changed the tempo, and then I opted up the octave so it could fit my range. So it really is about watching videos.
So pre-screens.
Yeah.
And that could be the monologues, classical song, and then what was next?
Monologue songs, dance reels, and then you get that all sent out, and usually you still have to do the college, the Common App if the school's on there, or the personal application, and all the essays that come along with it, and the specific School of Drama essays. So once you get your pre-screen passed, which means that they'll choose you and they want you to continue to the next round, you go to something called Unifieds. Or you can audition on campus. Unifieds happens in LA, Chicago, or New York, and it is a big conference that happens in January and February, where all the schools come and you audition for your various schools. So we went to New York for a week, and
that was great. I enjoyed that.
I loved it.
All I Am Is Me was birthed during that week.
Yeah.
We sat in the hotel room, and I created, which is the sister to the big sister to She Networks, was She All I Am Is Me, and we created that. Yeah, so
why I also
and it was so cold.
I didn't let Carey come into any of the auditions with me because I just
your audition for Carnegie was nearly 8 hours long.
Yeah, and then I had another audition after it, which was I mean
Manhattan.
I was very grateful to just be in the room by myself because there are some parents that are too overbearing and you just, but which was not going to be you. Which was not going to be you.
Can I tell you something?
But you were absolutely great, but there was some crazy stage
Of course, but during what I've learned as a parent for someone in this, and yes, I know that my presence can be anxiety inducing whether I say anything or not. And I think, and the reason being is, one, I'm your source of, you can cry on me, you can shout on me, and you can come to me when you need. And I am also very aware that if I want something badly for you, I actually become irritated and upset at you because I'm feeling that way for you. I know that about me. So I know that now, and I can see it from a distance. So I extract myself from it. When you go to interviews with your child, you're going to have to take them. You're going to have to go with them. You're sitting in the corridor. All I am for Alex, when she's auditioning, she's casting, when she's going for an interview, the colleges, I was just a bag carrier, a clove carrier, a steamer, a go get you Starbucks, I'll feed you. I was literally a servant to her. And that's who I am in all of these things, because my opinion is not wanted, desired, valued, appreciated in the moment. I know that she'll ask me when she really needs something. And I think as a parent, we want it for them and we want them to have success, but we need to know when to just be in the background and just shut up. And so I think, and I learned that pretty early on in the time. Because,
you know, I'm also someone that's, and I actually found, I was packing my college stuff and I found my checkbook that I had from my college pre-screens. Like I was so organized. It was probably the most organized I've ever been in my life, and I ate the healthiest I've ever been. So luckily, I knew exactly what I needed.
We need to do like a whole week. It could be a camp, couldn't it? We should do a unified camp. Just get ourselves back to being
I'm also,
again.
but it's helped me like being that organized, and because I just did showcase and I did the same thing. I checked off everything, but yeah, I mean.
So you did
it's
Unified.
Also a very stressful situation. But Unified,
just a series of interviews, but you have to get an appointment, don't you? But you can just rock up to, like, say Boston. Wasn't that just a free?
No, for me, I did callbacks for, but there were some schools, because Unified is the company and schools go to it, but then you can do like Unified.
You had appointments.
Unified auditions where you sit in front of a panel of their schools are there's different levels of schools, and so they're at a different level, but you can just sit and audition. And you know, when I did Thespians as another thing, I got into a school because they were a judge, and there's also it's called FTC, like Florida Theatrical Conference. With Thespians, you can audition for schools in Florida and outside of Florida.
How do kids that don't have parental support necessarily, I don't know, and we're not telling kids to go off and do all these things on their own, but say their parents don't really know, and we didn't really know, and we were asking questions, but school wasn't helping. So how do kids that I actually feel like we learn on the go. I think it was so hard for us without having any real solid advice and knowing what organisations to go to. How can you help yourself and get in front of the right audience and get the best opportunities to get into college? Because what I want to say is, you got into a school, I think it was like 1.2, 1.4%. There was like
0.5%.
Yeah, right?
Acceptance.
So how in the hell do you make that easy for yourself? And kids know this, and you as parents, and I'm sure you already know this, and I still tell Alex this to this day when it comes to auditions and things, it's not about you. It's not about how good you are, how talented you are, etc. It's about what they want in that moment. And yes, you must be the best that you can be. But this industry is not about you. It's about the person who's looking at the time and what they're looking for. I truly believe you end up where you're supposed to be. But that being said, what can kids do for themselves?
Well, first of all, I'll go back to what they can do, but that's why they say in auditions to be yourself and not try to be, and this is what I tell kids because I'm an ambassador at my school, is when people try to be what they think they want, they already know what they want. They want you to be you. And so if you're giving them a fake version of yourself, you're not going to get into the school because they can tell. You know, if you get into callbacks, if you get past pre-screens, they already think you're talented and they just want to know who you are as a person and how you work in a room and everything. So, and going off of being an ambassador, something I learned now that could be helpful for high school kids is I've had so many high schoolers reach out to me, like through my DMs or through my Facebook, asking questions about a school and what the school requires and everything. And it's like, it happens all the time. And so don't be afraid to reach out to the school themselves and ask, because they'll give you the answers. And what I did is a lot of internet stalking. There's a lots of videos explaining college auditions. And luckily, I think it's called Accepted, is where you do all the pre-screens, is the website. They'll tell you exactly what you need. A lot of schools have virtual tours and interviews with students on their websites, as well as just kids filming on YouTube. If you can't go to the school, or if you are learning more about the school, if you want to apply. It is hard. It is to even just apply to these schools and audition for them, there's a lot of money. Not only do you have to pay to submit your application, which there are scholarships that can be available, and like if you contact the website, they can give you a way to do it for free. But then you have to pay for sheet music and headshots and resumes and flying to these places and accommodation and shoes. There's so many different things that add up. So I was very lucky that I was able to do that. And there's a lot of kids.
Yeah, and we didn't know how we were going to do it. I think, we didn't know college costs what it does in America. It doesn't cost anywhere near, for example, Carnegie, I think, is $85,000 a year. And college in the UK is about £10,000, $12,000 a year. And we really didn't have that money. There are scholarships though, and so
there are also programs that there's a couple of people from my school did programs that would take them to college auditions. And now after the pandemic, college auditions were all on Zoom for a couple of years, and so most schools actually do have a Zoom option available.
Because who can fly around the country all the time?
If you can't travel to these places, and you can also go in person to some of these schools if they're state local, which I did for FSU. I also went to Michigan, but I think it just worked out scheduling wise to go there.
And you were saying earlier that there were different things that you did in school too to help you.
Well, yes, I used a lot of the skills that I learned from theatre over time. So even though a monologue was only 1 minute, 30 seconds, I read the whole play and I did a full character analysis. Like, these are little things that I just did when I had the time. I would sit and write, like, what's their name? What water sign are they? What are they meaning in this thing? I wrote down every single line of my songs and my monologues and put a gap underneath and wrote the meaning of it. And just little games like that. I went to the Dr. Phillips 4 count, and they would have master classes, and my teachers there were wonderful, and so they knew that I needed help with my college auditions, and so I would go first in every masterclass, and I would do my songs for them, and they would give me advice, all these Broadway professionals, and it was great because then I got many different perspectives on my pieces. And
Dr. Phillips do scholarships too. So
yeah, Dr. Phillips also does do scholarships for their student programs.
And I have a monthly headshot clinic that was born for kids to come and have their professional headshots done, really for theatre. And at a fraction of the price that I would charge, because I really feel that, it is a massive expense. It can be. And it does matter what you look like how you present
but
it.
There's a lot of my friends in my class, I'm lucky because you're my mother, to have but there's a lot of friends in my class that got in and their picture was a picture their friend took of them.
On their iPhone.
All you need is just like a very clear picture. And for my resume, I went online and I searched up and I went on actors' websites that are already like famous actors, and I copied how they did their resume. Because I didn't have anyone telling me how to do my resume. So it was a lot, and it was scary because there are people that have coaches outside of school and people working at school, and I was nervous. I was like, what if I'm doing the wrong thing? But I think what kept me so confident is I knew that I was doing the hardest work I could, and I was spending all my time on it, and I was just willing myself. And, you witnessed me at that time. It was like I slept, and breathed my college auditions. And you can work on them too hard. And actually I was in my Carnegie audition and I was doing one of my songs, and he just retired, but the head of musical theatre, Gary Klein, was like, stop acting, stop being a character and just sing the song and just let it go. And I think he asked me to sing another song and he told me that, and I think that's what got me into the school. I think doing all of the work and doing, like, even if it's like silly things like what color your character is, or where did they come from, even if you're doing it for 1 minute, you do all the work, and then when you're in the audition you just throw it away. And you just be yourself. I
said you need to show up and be flawed and not be afraid to be flawed. I think humanity has to come into it. I think it's like photography, and it's what I know. Learn all the rules, learn everything you need to know, educate yourself, then you can break the rules. I think the trouble is people either, like you say, they mimic a sound somebody else makes and they sing like they sing, and they think that will get them somewhere. And if they're famous, like, you're trying to sing like Ariana Grande, so please don't. So then, you go and sing like her, and you think that's going to make you famous, but it's not. You have to have the integrity behind it.
And also, there's always going to be someone that's better than you. Like, there's always going to be someone that can sing a higher note than you, or burst into tears during a monologue. And so then you can't think, I'm going to be the best out of everyone. You have to think, I'm going to stay true to who I am and work on the things that I'm bad at, but also work on what's best for me. And it's actually something that we talked about in my senior year of college when I'm going into Showcase, which is I'm performing for casting agents and managers and directors, and we did all this work in the 4 years of college that you do in high school, where you play different characters and you play outside your comfort zone and you try things that you're really hard at. And then with Showcase, they were like, just be yourself, because in the end, that's what's going to set you apart from everyone else, not something that you want to be, or you were trying out, or what you think they want. It's just who you are. And I actually changed one of my Showcase pieces halfway through my song, because my song I did all the work on it, like I would do with college auditions, but I kept with the work, and it was so rigid that I went to LA, and my teachers were like, what if you just do this song and you just sing it from your heart, you just stand there and sing it. And that's where I got the most responses from.
And I could feel that. I could feel the change, because I saw you in New York, and then you sent me a recording of LA, and I felt your song. And I think that, and part of me always was like, oh, I turned you into a perfectionist. And you're super talented at what you do. You are. But you do find it harder to just let go and be a little bit flawed. And it's hard, isn't it? Because sometimes you're watching people that do nothing and they seem to go everywhere.
Well, there's also... theatre is a weird degree, because in college, and you think it's easy because it's theatre, you're just singing and dancing and acting, but with other degrees you have a test, and it's like you memorize for the test and you just take the answers. With college, or like with musical theatre, it's you like bare your soul,
and it's opinionated,
and it's a complete opinion,
taste,
and it's who you are. And so you want to hold on so tightly. You're like, this is a cool idea I want to do for this scene, or this is something, or this will make them stand out. And it does put you in your head a lot. And, Carnegie was a really rigorous school. It was a conservatory based.
And you're in the top pool.
Yeah, and
people.
so I'm with 18 other beautiful, brilliant, extremely talented people, and we're in a studio, like 3 studios. We're inside all day from 9 in the morning until 10:30 at night, and then more some because you go into a studio and you work on your piece. And you know, I had teachers that were like, they yell out at you, and they yell at you whilst you're doing your thing, not in a mean way, but that's just how it is. Or you're stopped, or you know, you might wake up one morning and you don't want to bare your soul to these group of strangers, and you have to, and it changes every time. It's not about whether you know the answer. It's like a constant rediscovery. And I think,
what do you think that process is about?
I mean,
because I know in a lot of your classes they break you down, and dissect you in order for you to just recognize all of the facets of yourself so you can perform.
I think there's different types of drama schools, and when you're looking, I would say avoid the schools that advertise themselves like they're wiping you brand new and building you, because they won't have your best interest in mind. Something with CMU, and I know it's the same for a lot of different schools, is they saw my audition and they knew exactly what I could do and exactly who I could be without trying to change me. And they knew exactly what I could work on. And it's things that I've worked on for 4 years that I was told in my audition. And even now I'm only just starting to get. And I think...
What's that?
Well, I mean,
you're emotional about it. What is it?
Well, because I just graduated, and it's really it's really exciting.
But it's hard. Like, you're still learning.
Yeah, I was told in my audition to just like be quiet and not be a perfectionist. I think this is just for me, and like I can just sit, and I'm a really loud singer. And so in my audition, like Gary Klein was like, "Oh, Alex, you're screaming," and he said that as soon as I got in. And just this semester, I was working with the new head of musical theatre, Rick Edinger, and he's like, just be quiet. You don't need to yell. You don't need to do anything else than you already are. And so it's kind of like, dang, I wish, you know, if I just did that my freshman year, I'm wondering where I could be. And I think there's this expectation when you go into school for theatre that you're going to come out and you're going to know everything about acting, and you're going to be an amazing actor, and all your questions are solved. And I actually have more questions now than I did going in, because I was so certain that I was so good, and I got into Carnegie, and I did all the things in high school. I was the president of Thespians. I was all the leads. I won the awards. I made myself the leader of theatre in high school, which I do recommend if you want to get that edge, because it taught me how to like work really hard and get what I needed, even if it wasn't provided for me. And so I came to school and it was kind of broken down because I had everything challenged. Nothing was like, great, that was perfect. I was never told anything was perfect. And I was actually, for my first couple of years, we have these conferences, and my teacher was like, just let go of the perfectionism, make mistakes, be messy, don't worry. And it was more like, don't worry about what people perceive it as, because that's perfectionism, is wanting to do what you think people want. So
10 different people are going to want a different perfect.
Yeah, and I was constantly comparing myself to people. Not really so much in college auditions, because I was so like, I had such big tunnel vision, but I think it was a good thing because I learned so much from my peers at Carnegie, and they almost taught me more than my teachers did, even in terms of technique. Yeah. But then there was also comparing myself to everyone, and like, oh, wow, look at these choices they're making. I never would have thought of that. Or even just like, their voice is so much better than mine. I could never do that. Or I'm not that flexible. I can't do that many turns. I'm not as tall as them or as skinny as them, or I don't have, even just like, they're so much more popular than I am. And I think that was something I got so caught up in, that now just like going into my last semester of senior year, unpacking that I don't need to worry about what other people think. And that's our whole career, is what people think of you, which is really hard. And you get told like, oh, I don't want someone who looks like you, or someone that sings like you, or we have so many of you, or et cetera, but learning to just like be yourself and not caring about what people think of you is the biggest lesson that I had coming out of
Do you
college.
think it's necessary, a college education for musical theatre? Or not necessary? Do you think it was valuable? Do you think are you glad you did this?
Because I was about to say, I
Please
know,
say yes, because it was really expensive.
well, I know people, the thing about like a career in acting, when people think of a career in acting, they think of it as like whether you get famous or not. Because there are tons of people that don't go to school for theatre and they get famous. And and there are people that get a graduate, like a master's degree and a bachelor's, and they go to school for 10 years, or they go to Juilliard and they never do anything. But also there are people that, I think in terms of a successful career in theatre is constantly working and making that your career, and also just learning. And I think because my degree did teach me to sing and dance and act, but it also taught me how to market myself. It taught me the business of the career, stuff like unions and how to
because people don't
earn
realise
my living when I'm not.
It's not all frilly. This is a job.
How to earn my living when I'm not doing a theatre career, and where to live, and the theatres to know, and also like different like theories and like practitioners of acting like Stanislavski and Linklater and Meissner, and you work with other people 10 hours a day, so you learn how to trust people. And I've built so many amazing connections through my school, and my school has an amazing alumni association. And I have a big who is in the industry, and she was a senior when I was a freshman, and she's doing amazing things. And then I also have my industry big who is a Broadway star, and who knows the person I'm just about to do a show with, and then they all recommend you. So I think going to school, I learned how to be an adult, and I learned how to be independent for myself. I learned so many, like the actual craft of acting, and because you can learn things in school, and then when I leave school, you can never do them again. If there's a text work that doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it once you leave, but you've learnt it, and then maybe 10 years down the line it'll be
fundamentals.
So I learned so many different things in terms of the craft and the history, and working with designers and other people from different majors in the field. So it's expensive. It's not needed to have a career in acting, but it definitely gives you a massive leg up, and if you use it wisely.
And the name you've had, and the name of many other schools has integrity, so it's going to help you. You've just done Showcase, which means you're performing to industry people in New York and LA, and you just graduated. What's next?
So next for me, I think they didn't give me an NDA. I'm doing a 2-month show in Pittsburgh. I'm doing a show, Young Frankenstein. I'm playing the role of Inga, which is exciting. It's my first. I did a show that was 7 weeks.
I was wondering where you're going with that. Then I realised you're talking about a show that you're about to be.
Yeah. If we're talking about what I'm actually doing next, so I did my first show that was 7 weeks long this Christmas, but this is 9 weeks long. We start rehearsing July 1st and we end September 1st. And
you learnt to yodel.
I am learning how to yodel, which is great. And my co-star, one of my co-stars is in my class, which is great. But another one he was Jack Kelly on the national tour of Newsies, and so he knows my big. He's just coming off of a Broadway tour.
So this is work now, and this is a reality.
Yeah.
This is a theatre in Pittsburgh with working actors. And like I've said to you, you get a check at the end of every week doing what you love. This is your job now. And some jobs are going to come up, and you've got potential for other jobs at the end of the year. Some jobs are going to come up that don't always seem big and exciting, but this is real work. Like, this is like someone being on a soap opera for 20 years. That was their job.
I have a friend who I did a show with. I've done a couple shows with. She did 17 shows last year. That's her career.
Yeah.
And she lives in Pittsburgh.
And
she just does everything, actor. And she's a work, and that's her life. And so, I'm moving to New York. I don't want to say I'm planning to move. I am moving to New York, hopefully in January, because I have another contract in Pittsburgh from November to December. So I don't want, subletting is weird and everything.
You'll go there in January.
But I think so many people are like Broadway or bust, or movies or bust, and you can make your living off of regional if you're smart about it.
If you think about the percentage of the people that work in the industry and how many people are actually on a Hollywood movie, then you need to be realistic.
There are people that make their entire career off regional theatres, and if you're equity, which is the union, you do earn, like I probably will be getting another job whilst doing this show during the day to just earn money, but I am earning a livable wage doing this show, and doing a show that runs for 2 months, it's a very valuable thing. And I'm very privileged to have a job for 2 months, and then...
Well, you've worked for it, you've earned it. So also the other things, you're doing your website, and you've learned how to build and create your website, and it looks awesome. And that is alexsheffield.com.
Yeah.
And so I told my kids, or I helped my kids, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. I made them buy their name as a domain, www.theirname.com, as soon as it was available, so that they would have that, because being in musical theatre, you want your name to be the same.
And
or any theatre.
We were told this year to build a website. A lot of people didn't. I built mine sophomore year.
Yeah.
And I've been working on it for a couple of years, so people do look at it. Because it's a personal website, why would they look at it? I had a manager reach out to me from my personal website, and because I have all my materials on there. And also, social media is a very interesting thing. A lot of people don't like to be on it, which is okay, but I have a big social media presence, and I've gotten a lot of, mostly just Instagram, I've gotten a lot of offers and made a lot of connections through my Instagram. And I don't post anything bad.
But the first thing people do when they Google you is, the first thing they do when they meet you or hear about you is they Google you. Now, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, what people don't seem to understand, your name appearing anywhere across any platform is a language that's gone into the web, and then you're going to appear. So you want to appear where people can see you. The more impressions you can make on somebody, and that's by being seen, the more likely you are to succeed.
And from the casting directors I've met, and schools do look at Instagrams, not so much, but it's good practice for
also, and if you're inappropriate online, they're going to look at that too.
Casting directors do look at Instagrams. Sometimes silly things, like sometimes the role comes down to who has more Instagram followers or anything, which doesn't really matter. But if you do post anything inappropriate, my YouTube, I wiped it clean of performance videos that I felt didn't represent myself fully or like on the best. And they do that for college auditions too. They will look to see if you have any other videos online of you performing. If maybe they liked your pre-screen or your audition, but they aren't really sure and they want to see if you could do other things. Yeah. So for me, definitely my social media has been a big thing. Building my website, making connections. I've gotten pretty good about sending out general emails to people, having my resume always updated, my headshots always updated, and doing projects like doing new works and like reaching out to writers and directors, because everyone knows each other. And I've been lucky to do a lot of new works that do go places. And like I did a play a couple years ago that just had an industry reading for producers, which is really good. The One Day Down by Sam Ozaeus that I did at a theatre festival in New York is now being seen for like,
which is fabulous,
bigger productions.
Yeah. Well, look, so much information, and I think you would not be upset if anyone DM'd you.
I would
or reached
love
out.
it.
Yeah, or emailed out. So you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Alex on her Instagram or alexsheffield.com. But there is so much information. It is really big and scary. Any regrets?
Any regrets? I think I regret, I don't know. I think I was pretty happy with my college audition. I think because...
College life, college audition and all the things.
College life, I wish I cared less about what people think about me.
That's just life.
That's just life. I think with college musical theatre programs, you'll think you're going to be best friends. And I trust everyone. I make the thing of like, everyone's like my cousin. Like I might know some people less and some people more, but I love them all the same. But I think I didn't regret a lot of things with my college auditions because I know
things you do differently.
Well, because I did the hardest work that I could. I know I put everything into it, and I followed my instincts, and I did what felt right. And so I think if I doubted myself or like put less work into it or put it on the back side, I would have regretted that because, you know, and also you just have to take the impulse and take the leap, even if you think it's the wrong decision in an audition. If someone gives you a critique and, you know, I was asked to dance one of my monologues, which is really silly. And then there was one monologue I did and the teacher like spurred me so much that I just started crying. And I think you have to take those chances.
Be real, show up. Let yourself go.
Yeah, just
be in the moment.
Just do it because it's the only. Who cares what they think? If they don't accept you, they don't accept you.
No, and you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And don't forget, and I said this to Alex, we went to one school and I went, yeah, that's not for you. And I think you're auditioning the schools as much as they're auditioning you.
Well, they want you. They need you to come to the school, you know. Yeah. But they actually need people, and that's something in all auditions we've been told is you have to go in knowing that you're the solution to their problem rather than begging them to accept you because well, can't believe we're here. Can't believe that those 4 years have gone by, and 1 year was in COVID year 2020, so it was all on Zoom, and she performed in plays and did everything online on Zoom
with a mask on her face, whatever. But well done. Congratulations on graduating. I'm very excited that you graduated. Can't believe it. She's walking around with a degree. But thank you for coming to tell us all about it.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you.